Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's January 25th, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day. And Matt, I could put our little list back up on the screen if you want me to or whatever. But, for at least a day or two, actually, I'm going to take it down and I'm going to do a quick edit here real fast just for notation purposes, and then we'll bring it back. And I'm going to put a moratorium, at least for a day or two, on John Ruiz, as well as Manny Diaz, Blake James roster numbers and your Gator shirts, because we've talked a lot about them, and I think it's starting to get a little redundant. And so I think we need to let that go for a couple days. So I'm going to add him to our do not discuss list for now, because we do have so much recruiting turf to cover today. So are you okay with that before I get into recruiting?
I mean, I don't care. People can read the number story. It speaks for itself. We don't need to talk about it. It's right there. So we've been talking about it for a week.
No, I'm talking about, yeah, all right. But I mean, do you agree with me putting John Ruiz on the list for at least a couple days?
I don't think there's anything new to talk about with John Ruiz, is there? I mean, is there something you know that I don't?
By next week, I'm sure there will be.
Just go upstairs, ask John if there's any new news, and then if there is, we can report it.
All right. So let's get right to the point here. We got so much turf to cover today, and it's all recruiting oriented. We're a week before signing day, and I guess 8 days before signing day, and so much going on. It's kind of bizarre because when they changed the recruiting systems and they went to the early signing day, the past few years, things were pretty much done in the early signing period. Not the case this year with Mario Cristobal coming in and 8 signees in the first period. There's a lot of work being done here in signing period number 2. And Miami looks, Matt, before I get into specifics, in general, on a global commentary basis, it looks like Miami's going to get a lot of work done here.
What do you mean get a lot of? You mean they're going to get a lot of signees, or
they're going to get signees? They're getting transfers. They're going to improve the roster here in the second half.
Okay, yeah. So I do listen. I love the addition of the Moultrie kid from UAB, not just because he is a guy who can play a position Miami needs help at, defensive tackle, even if he's a rotation guy, but because he'll be gone after a year. These are the perfect guys for me. There's you got to take as many of these guys as you can that can help you, because they're gone after a year. It doesn't affect the numbers. You guys can read the story this morning. We're not going to talk about numbers, but that's why I love this guy. He's a great leader. This is a locker room character kid. You can read the interview we did with him yesterday. He's all about winning. He's all about helping the team, and that can be infectious for a group of players in today's modern age of social media, NIL deals, where will a 100-yard rushing game get me money? This is a guy who doesn't care about that. This is a guy who's coming to Miami with no illusions of grandeur that he's going to be the star player. He's coming from UAB. He put in the work there. He just wants to help Miami become the best possible program it can become, and whatever he is after that, he is after that. But his goal is to help Miami win, and if that rubs off on other guys, he's worth his weight in gold, regardless if he even makes an impact on defense, as far as I'm concerned. Older guy, experienced, right attitude. You can't find enough guys like that anymore. It used to be they were here, that was everybody. It used to be the outlier was the guy who was me, show me the money. This now is the outlier. It's not. I'm not down talking Miami. I'm saying nationally, this is just the outlier in recruiting. And there's other guys like this out there, but again, you just can't have enough of them on your roster. So very happy with that addition. As for February signees,
all right, wait. Let me stop you for 1 minute, okay? Because you just talked about Antonio Moultrie for a couple minutes, so we might as well put that subject to bed. All right. So there's a story on Moultrie on the site this morning, and that's because he committed to Miami yesterday, and he's a transfer that's going to be coming in. He's going to be a depth filler on the defensive line, particularly at the defensive tackle position. But I will say this is a kid that has played a lot of football at various positions on defense. And if there's injuries, if there's needs for somebody to fill in here or there, this is an experienced kid who's played a lot of college football that will be able to help where he is needed. I think he's going to get a lot of reps on the defense next year. I think he'll originally factor in at defensive tackle, and then how he fares in his competition with Leonard Taylor, with Jared Harrison Hunt, with Jordan Miller, will determine just where he goes from there. So, a great pickup, like Matt says, an experienced guy that won't wow anybody probably with like spectacular plays all the time, but will be a solid guy that can give you a lot of reps on game day on defense. So great pickup by Moultrie. All right, Matt. So, let's get back to the general topic. I'm sure you'll bring somebody else up that we'll elaborate on, but just the general topic of how much work Miami is getting done here in the second part of recruiting.
Yeah, well, okay, so Moultrie, when I talked to him, he was literally packing his bags to come to Miami because the last day to enroll is Wednesday for a transfer. So for all of you out there who were thinking Miami's going to take, what did you say, Gary, 10 transfers, 15 transfers? I mean, this is
I didn't say 15. I did not say 15.
Gary,
I thought they would take
25 transfers.
I thought they'd take 7 to 10. They're probably not going to get there.
They can still get there. Anyway, listen, I still think that Logan Sagapolu, I still think he winds up enrolling, but that
would be 4, right?
He posted yesterday. We heard that he was on an official visit yesterday. I don't know what's going to happen there, but if he wants to enroll for the spring practice, he has to do it. And
I feel confident he's going to enroll.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Then what happens is you can't enroll for the spring semester after that period. So so any other transfers that come in will come in the summer. They can still get plenty more kids after spring ball are going to be in the portal. Trust me. Once kids see at different programs have new coaching staffs, oh, my role looks different. Oh, they're moving my position. Oh, they want me to do this, do that. There will be a lot of new faces and some that can really help you that will enter the transfer portal after spring ball. And then Mario Cristobal, and guess what? He'll have some new coaches. I'm hoping maybe by July or August on the staff. They can also say, hey, this kid will help us. That kid will help us. There will be more transfers that come in. I feel very confident in that. So with that said, now you move to the February signees, Wednesday signing day. It's hard for me right now to say for sure. I thought for sure Dave Yulee. I thought for sure Shamar Stewart, or I should say I was very confident in both of them. Not as confident anymore. I'll touch on that in a minute. Mason Thomas, Ahmad Moten, I still think wind up in this class. Aside from those two right now, there's nobody I would say bet the house on, so to speak, or whatever term you want to use. I don't know if you guys have dogs. I had a dog for 2 days. It didn't work out. I don't want to talk about it. But if I still had a dog, I wouldn't bet my dog on anybody other than those two coming right now. And what happened with Dave Yulee, I actually spoke to him for a while last night, and he's really, I don't want to say stressed out because he's not a guy who gets stressed out. Like when I talk to him, it's such great conversations. I literally, I don't ever tell kids this, but I literally told him last night, I said, I'm an old man.
Let me guess. You told me to take him stone crab fishing.
No, I did not tell him that. He doesn't know what a stone crab is. He's not from around these parts. I said, Dave, listen, I know I don't sound like it. I know I sound like a chipper young gentleman, but I'm an old man, Dave. I said, I'm 50. I look like I'm 30 compared to Gary, but I'm 50. I said, and talking to you is a ray of sunshine. I said, talking to you makes me feel young again because he talks. Gary, you and I covered Chris Myers, Joel Rodriguez, those offensive linemen in the old day. This kid's an offensive lineman, obviously. This is how this kid talks. He reminds me of when I was a young, aspiring reporter trying to break stories. We still break stories once in a while. And this is how he talks. It's just refreshing. He's so pumped up. You can't put into a story when I say to him, what's Mario Cristobal and Alex Monroe, what has their message been to in the last week since we last talked? I can't put into a story how he responds, but I can do it here. He says, they talk about the you. And that's how he says it. I'm not exaggerating. That's how he says it. Picture, juicy, however the new strength coach says it, Aaron Feld, that juicy thing, that's what he makes the you sound like. You can't write that in a story. This is what he sounds like in real life. I'm not making that up. So I hope he joins Miami. But the other thing he told me, the reason I'm not as optimistic, I was optimistic out of the Poly Bowl, a lot of people were predicting Oregon for him. He was committed to Oregon, but again, it was the coaches that are now here he committed to. But it bothers me a little bit in terms of his recruitment and where Miami stands when he says he's really pretty dead set on he wants to visit Oregon, and he'll. Okay, I don't know what that is.
Whoa! I hit the wrong button. That's my fault.
Really, and he's willing to wait until after signing day because he wants to visit Oregon so badly as his last visit, and he might even wait till March to sign because there's a dead period in February. So that's a red flag with him. I'd say maybe 50-50 now. I would have said 75% chance before this conversation. Shamar Stewart, talking to his defensive line coach who's helping him make a decision and who Shamar's really relying on, talked to him yesterday for a while. And they're very concerned about the defense coordinator situation because I guess the last time Shamar was on campus, God forbid, Joe Salavea is honest with the kid and says, listen, we want to use you inside on some third down plays. And Shamar, as soon as he got back, started tweeting out, I'm a defensive end. I'm only a defensive end. Like, who does that? You're not only a defensive end, Shamar. You do what's best for the team. And if you can get a sack on third down by moving inside against a slower defensive tackle, against a slower offensive guard center, what's the problem with that? I don't understand this.
These kids need to start letting coaches tell them what their best position is.
I mean, it's a
they
little.
They don't realize they're doing themselves a disservice.
Yeah, so telling the truth isn't always the best medicine, apparently. So, Shamar, if you want to let other guys tell you they'll only use you to end for the rest of your career, good luck with that because it may not be true. I'd go to where the guys tell the truth personally. That's not a pro-Miami or anti-Miami thing. That's just an honest assessment. I would go where guys are telling me the truth. So that's a red flag now for Miami. I would have said Shamar was going to Miami before this. Now, again, up in the air. And then there's Matthew McCoy's very hard to get a read on. His mother loves Miami. I think if she could pick a school for him, it would be Miami, but he's just so quiet and nobody knows what that kid's going to do. So that's up in the air. And then you got a bunch of other guys coming this weekend that we have to wait and see. You know, Kristen Miller, I think there's a decent chance, but got to see how the visit goes. Shavonte Citizen, I think it's a long shot, but got to see how the visit goes. And he had coaches see him yesterday. Inez Cooper, same thing. I think he's a long shot, but again, great visit. You don't know. And Josh Connerly, there's a chance with Josh Connerly. He likes Miami coaches a lot. Knew them from Oregon. Got to see how the visit goes. So you say it's going to be a very, I don't know what the words you use, Gary.
I'm more bullish than you on all those guys.
You're what?
I'm more bullish.
You're more bullish than me on everything. I'm just telling it like I see it, like an out. I try to do from the top perspective. Like I'm not a Miami fan. I'm not rooting for any program in particular. I'm just trying to look at the facts.
I'm just reading the teams.
You're looking at it like you're a Miami fan and everyone's coming to Miami. That's fine. That's how Miami coaches look at it.
I'm reading the teams. I think they got a good shot with all those kids.
Listen, it's nice to be optimistic. I cry myself to sleep every night, muttering the words. I can't say his name. You only say his name. I can't say his name. It's he who can't be named. I fall asleep crying, muttering that name. You fall asleep laughing and saying Mario Cristobal's name. We have two different perspectives. What do you want from me?
All right, so a lot going on in recruiting, and we've got a lot of it covered today. I'm just going to go down the list of different things that are on the website and give you guys a little capsule look at what you're going to be reading on the site today. Four-star Michigan quarterback Dante Moore, a guy that is getting on a lot of radars here early in 2023 recruiting. He was part of the Elite Prospect Day on Saturday, and we check in with him to see his thoughts on that. Out-of-state offensive lineman Landon Hatchett came from Ferndale, Washington to Elite Prospect Day. And if you're going to fly all the way from the opposite corner of the country, literally, for Elite Prospect Day, there's no reason to rush home afterwards. And Hatchett stayed later into the night than just about any other recruit because he wanted to spend one-on-one time with Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal, and he got to do that. And he left town with a very good feeling about what Miami is and what his options are here, which is a big objective, obviously, of a junior day, like what Saturday was. So you can read about that and see how he felt about his Miami visit. R. Mason Thomas, the Cardinal Gibbons defensive end, has returned back with Ahmad Moten, the defensive tackle, from a visit to Oklahoma, and now they're pondering their futures. Miami wants both of them. I think the Canes got a great chance to get both of them. And we catch up with R. Mason Thomas, and you can see what he thought about his Oklahoma visit and where Miami stands there. We have an interview with a newly minted 5-star. Matt mentioned them, Josh Connerly, offensive lineman, very familiar with Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal from Oregon recruiting. Now he's weighing Oklahoma, USC, Oregon, Washington, Michigan, and Miami. The Canes get a shot at him this weekend. But barring something crazy, like him absolutely falling in love with the U, which obviously Cristobal and Mirabal are going to work real hard to accomplish, Connolly is saying that he may not sign until March, that he is going to wait until the next open period in March and take a few more of these visits and then make a decision. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, Cristobal and Mirabal are going to try to change that when he makes his official visit to Miami this weekend. A couple other things of note. Matt mentioned Shamar Stewart. His thing now with his coach, I guess we'll call him, at Miami Pace, is that they would like to see Mario Cristobal hire his defensive coordinator before they have to make a decision next week. Whether that'll happen or not remains to be seen. On the coordinator front, I can tell you that Mario is still weighing several candidates. He's obviously targeting guys involved in the National Football League. And there are movement. Coaches want to buy time because they want to see what their options are before they make decisions. So, like, you take a guy like Ken Dorsey, who clearly to me looks like Cristobal's top target as offensive coordinator. I mean, Dorsey's got an offensive coordinator option at Buffalo. He's got potential coordinator options at other NFL teams, and he has Mario Cristobal wooing him to be the offensive coordinator at Miami. So it's good to be Ken Dorsey these days. Pretty darn good, and he's got options. And obviously, Mario is hoping to convince him to come to Miami if Dorsey's the guy he wants. So we'll see what happens there, whether an offense coordinator gets hired. On the defensive side, probably the same thing. Some of the guys he's considering have other NFL options. He's not rushing there either. So will he meet Shamar Stewart's deadline, with which Shamar looking to make a decision by next Tuesday, since he's hoping to sign on Wednesday? That'll be something that we'll have to monitor here as the days go forward. And then lastly, on the recruiting front, Mario Cristobal and new running back coach Kevin Smith, they woke up yesterday morning, hit an airplane over to Naples-Fort Myers, where they popped in on Lehigh High's Richard Young, who is just, if you haven't seen Richard Young, do a Google search, take a look at his highlights. This kid looks to me like a future superstar, no matter where he goes. Massive priority for Miami. Cristobal and Smith took the opportunity on their way to Louisiana to see Trevante Citizen. They stopped at Naples-Fort Myers Airport, popped over to Lehigh High, and made an appearance there and talked to the coaches of Richard Young. They couldn't talk to Richard Young himself because he's a 2023 prospect, and you're not allowed to talk to them right now face-to-face at their school.
And not to interrupt your 10-minute diatribe.
Yeah, it is long. Sure, I agree. But there's a lot of stuff here. We can't go on for 10 minutes about every kid, so I'm just like getting through them, you know.
I'm sure Richard Young also, they couldn't talk to him because he just didn't answer the phone for them and hung up on them just like he did to me. So, that's just the way it goes. Continue. Continue. I didn't want to interject.
Nobody cares.
That was a joke. Richard Young takes their calls, or he calls them. These rules are so ridiculous. The kids can, the NIL deals in college. Yes. They can't. A kid has to call a coach. The coaches can't even call these 2023 and 2024 kids to give them offers. They have to text a coach at the school and have the kid call them, and the whole thing's ridiculous. Anyway, my favorite quote from yesterday with Trevante Citizen. It's amazing in this day and age how we've been doing this for a long time, Gary. There were recruits that they would call us. They loved talking to us, and some of them still do, but it was more the norm than nowadays. And this is becoming more the norm. So I talked Trevante Citizen, and again, we don't want to get Jaleel Florence by anybody. We don't try to kill anybody with calls or texts or anything. So I had texted Trevante Citizen a couple of times and called him a couple of times just over the last few days, because obviously he's visiting next weekend. We want to do a preview with him. Hey, Trevante, would you be okay talking for a couple of minutes to preview your Miami visit? No response, whatever. You let it go. Obviously, he's getting the message. He doesn't want to do it. So I talked to Trevante's coach yesterday, the recruiting coordinator there, and I said to him, I'm just curious. I don't want to keep badgering or bothering Trevante at all. Do you think he would be receptive to doing an interview previewing the visit? And the exact quote from the coach, this is so typical of how the media is viewed now, not just the CNN, Fox News, depending what side of the spectrum you're on, but just the overall big picture of media now. He said, and this is a quote, it's not in the story for obvious reasons, it had nothing to do with the story, quote, Trevante doesn't like the interview process, the media, period. That's it. So I'm guessing we're not going to get much from Trevante leading into the visit, or maybe even after the visit, or maybe even on signing day or after signing day, or maybe for the rest of his career until he's forced by the NFL to do that 1 day a week availability where he can do the Ricky Williams and keep his helmet on and answer questions with one syllable, or something like that. Maybe sort of like a former Seattle Seahawks running back, Marshawn Lynch. But I just found that so typical of this day and age where everyone's jaded about the media. We're not here to write any negative stories about anyone. We just want to let fans know what's up, and it's amazing. Even high school prospects now, they buy into the narrative. The media is evil. The media is bad.
All right. Well, as I was saying before, you decided you needed equal time. They got up and flew to Fort Myers Airport and popped over to Lehigh High to make an appearance for Richard Young. And every top coach in America has been going there in the last week. I mean, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney, they've been popping into Lehigh High. Lehigh High has been one of the most popular places in the country because Richard Young is that good. So they spent about a half hour or so there visiting with the coach, went back to the airport. I'm assuming they had a driver, went back to the airport and jumped back on the plane and flew to Louisiana to go visit Citizen. And then Citizen will be coming in this weekend on his official visit. So Citizen's a really good running back as well. I mean, really, really good. Is he as good as Richard Young? I don't know. There's different classes. It doesn't matter. There's three guys to watch at running back. There's Citizen, there's Richard Young next year, and there's Mark Fletcher next year. If Miami can get these guys, at least two of the three, if not all three, they are set at the running back position. I'm telling you, these kids are elite. They are really, really good. Matt Shodell, I assume you agree with that.
Yeah, and I want to go back to, because we may not be able to talk about Ken Dorsey again, depending if he stays in the NFL and takes a job. So I wanted to.
Do I need to add him to the list too?
I couldn't break in. God forbid when you mentioned Ken Dorsey, I tried to talk. You would have had a conniption. You would have put some scroll on the bottom. You would have probably taken me off the screen. I don't know what you would have done, so I had to wait until now. I mean, that was 15 minutes ago, but this is my first chance to talk about it. So just so I could tell a Ken Dorsey story, because I don't know. I don't know if he's going to stay in the NFL or maybe take the Miami job. It's going to be, if Mario can get Ken Dorsey, it's obviously a home run hire. But my favorite Ken Dorsey story, and yes, Gary and I both covered the team in those days, and there was a lot more access in those days where we could talk to whoever we wanted. And as it happened in those days, during the spring game, you're not forced to be up in the press box watching it from 500 yards away through binoculars. You were on the field watching the spring game right next to the guys. And it's a spring game. And if you watch the spring games now, it's vanilla. It was vanilla then. It's vanilla now. Usually the defense is ahead of the offense in the spring game. It is what it is. And I can't remember if it was 2001 or 2002, but it was definitely after one of the years where Dorsey had already been a starter and done fairly well. So my guess would be probably 2002. But regardless, it's the spring game. It's vanilla. Usually the players are going through the motions or whatever. And there was a third down play near the goal line, and I was standing right there. And Dorsey, I think, got sacked or had to throw the ball away or something. And there was a mistake made. I don't know what the mistake was. I don't know what the play was supposed to be. But he went ballistic, screaming and ran. And this is a veteran quarterback in the spring game with fans in the stands. And this is the kind of passion that I hope Mario Cristobal brings back to the team. Because we've seen, I don't want to name kids, we've already mentioned like Mark Pope walking in practices. He's not the only one. There's many kids have just basically full speed practices have become walkthroughs at Miami. That's the passion that Ken Dorsey had in a meaningless vanilla spring game where he's screaming at a bunch of players because either they weren't focused enough, taking it seriously enough, doing their job correctly. That's what Miami needs under Mario Cristobal. And Mario Cristobal knows that. That's the culture of Miami. People talk about what's the culture of Miami. That's the culture of Miami. Ken Dorsey in a meaningless vanilla spring game where you're just running a basic play and guys aren't trying hard enough on a third down play and he had to throw it away or get tagged down. They don't actually tackle you. So sacked with a tag, whatever it was, you go ballistic and you get those players focused on understanding this is not how it's done at Miami. It's not okay to do this at Miami. And until that becomes the norm again at Miami, you can't say the culture is fixed at Miami. So having Ken Dorsey come back and knowing that's what it should look like, and that's what it should look like at Miami specifically, he's not just a home run hire because he's coached the Cam Newtons and the Josh Allens of the world into amazing, I don't know what the word would be. I'll say numbers, but whatever, the stratosphere of the NFL. He's not just a great quarterbacks coach. And yeah, he hasn't been a coordinator, but you know he's going to be great at it. It's also that mentality of winning. You do everything you can do in your power every single minute of every single day to get to where not just you need to be, but where you're helping your teammates along. And you're screaming at them if you have to, and you're patting them in the back when they do it right. And that's all I got to say about it. That's my Ken Dorsey story. That's how I think that's to be. Whether Ken Dorsey is a coordinator or not, that's what they need at this program. Mario Cristobal knows it. There's not enough of it. He knows there's not enough of it. It needs to change.
All right, well, take note here that for your purposes, I added to the scroll, Ken Dorsey's still allowed for now. So
I have no other Ken Dorsey story to tell you, Gary. So, I mean, I'm sure I have more, but I just don't remember them. That was a long time ago. I can barely remember yesterday. I forgot 20 years ago.
All right. So a couple other things on the website this morning. You notice on that scroll, I did have that roster numbers are untouchables for the show. So we're not going to elaborate on this, but just to shove it up my butt, Matt in his spare time decided to throw like a little content item together on roster numbers, okay? And he masqueraded it as a continuation of our Why at the U series. So we do have a Why at the U series piece today on a study on the 85 roster limit and the upcoming likely attrition.
Yeah. You know what, Gary? Maybe you should read the story. Maybe you should read the story, then you'll understand what I've been talking about for 2 weeks.
You snuck that one in, admit it. I mean, whatever. But we're not going to elaborate on it on the show. People are going to have to read the story because it's untouchable. And that ticker, this is sacred. Okay, we're not talking about Manny Diaz. We're not talking about Blake James. We're not roster numbers. We're not talking about your Gator shirts. And at least for a few days, we're not going to talk about John Ruiz because people were making comments on YouTube yesterday that we're too obsessed with John Ruiz. So we're going to, we will have I know we're going to have some big John Ruiz news next week, but until next week, we'll skip John Ruiz for at least a couple days. If I have to take it off the ticker, though, I will, because John Ruiz promises to keep making news. All right, and then also today on the website we've got a look at basketball. Tough loss the other day, man, against Florida State. They've lost 2 one-point games to the Seminoles. They're still tied for first place in the ACC with Florida State, despite it. And now they're going on the road a little bit. They got a tougher than people think game on Wednesday night at Virginia Tech, and then they play Georgia Tech on the road this coming weekend. So it's going to be interesting. I think if they can win these 2 games on the road, it's going to be a really good sign for them. I think the Virginia Tech game in Blacksburg is going to be a very tough game. That's my opinion.
What? Virginia Tech's terrible.
I know that. I don't think they're terrible. I think that they've struggled a little bit, but I think they're a team that can wake up, that can get better as the year goes on.
You're already making an excuse in case Miami loses. That's what you're doing.
Blacksburg.
You're making an excuse.
No, I'm not making an excuse.
There's no reason Miami should not win that game easily.
Well, maybe not, and it might turn out that way, but I don't think. When you go on the road, Matt, it's a whole different deal.
If you talk to Jim Larrañaga makes it sound like every team is the greatest team he's ever faced in the history of his 85-year coaching career, okay? Virginia Tech's number 1 in three-point shooting and number 1 in three-point defense. We can't win. Why are we even going there? That's like basically what he said.
Well, something to look out for on the Jim Larrañaga front. I would look for Jim Larrañaga in the very near future to get a contract extension at Miami.
Why do you keep saying why? Okay, why would they sign him to an extension? How many years are you talking? Because
number one,
he's
if
not going anywhere. There's no leverage.
No, but they do want to reward him for the job he's done coming back from the FBI situation, and they want recruits to know that he's going to be here, that he's not retiring, because people will use that against him in recruiting. So his plan is not to retire. His plan is to stay here moving forward, and I think you're going to see a statement in that regard here.
Listen, I get the recruiting argument, but the truth be told, the top basketball recruits, honestly, they think they're coming for a year anyway. If he's going to be the coach, he's going to be the coach. They're not looking 3 to 5 years. Who's going to be there in 3 to 5 years?
No, but you still want to have the option of recruiting high school kids. To me,
you have a frank discussion with him. Listen, how many years do you really think you still want to coach? And I don't know if he wants to coach 10 more years. I'd be surprised.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it's all about the buyout and the exit clauses. Correct. I mean, and nobody sees those. Those are private matters, and you might put $1 buyout in there or something, or if you think a contract, you might get a lump sum, $100,000 or something. Like who knows? Who knows what the terms will be? But they can deal with that in the contract language. It's not a big deal.
They could sign him to a 20-year contract tomorrow, Gary. I'm telling you right now, the whole recruiting thing doesn't matter because they're still going to negative recruit saying he's X years old. Look at other guys who have already retired in the conference that are similar to him. He's not going to be there. It doesn't matter if they sign him to an extension. There's no reason to sign him because he's not going anywhere. So
I don't disagree, but it's good to have the option to recruit high school kids, and I think their recruiting is going to continue to be centralized around transfers. It's working incredibly well. Look at Charlie Moore this year. Look at Jordan Miller this year. Phenomenal players. I
don't know why Jim Larrañaga has so many people don't like him. He's a great guy, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I'm eating out with my kids and my wife at. It used to be Shula's 347 because I lived in South Miami. I lived in Pinecrest at the time.
Yeah, they changed that place. What is it now?
Huh?
Yeah, they changed the name of that restaurant.
It's something else. I moved to the Grove, so I don't. This was a few years ago, but he's just eating at the restaurant. He literally comes over to my table. I didn't even know he was there. He comes over, introduces himself to my wife and my kids. I mean, this is the kind of guy he is. Other coaches, they don't want to be seen. They're wearing disguises. He's. I don't know how to put it, but I also think he's a great coach. So great guy, great coach. You don't get many like him. To me, he's a legend. I know fans, some of them are like, he loses a game, they say, fire Larrañaga, but that's not for me.
Yeah. All right, so an awful lot, as you see, for you guys to absorb on the website this morning. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'm sure we'll have more coming up as the day goes on. It's news by the minute right now at this time of year. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. We thank you for joining us once again today on Good Morning CaneSport. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.